This meeting is being recorded.
Well, good evening, National Baptist Convention USA Incorporated, and welcome to this evening's National Baptist USA Hope Health webinar, Temple Care Matters. My name is Ellen McKnight Hill, registered dietitian and the Hope coordinator for nutrition, and I will be moderating this evening's discussion. First things first, we would just love to acknowledge our national leadership. So we want to say a special thank you to Dr. Jerry Young, our president, Dr. Alvin Edwards, our general secretary, Dr. Alvin Love, our chair of the Federal Faith-Based Development Initiative, and our leader, Dr. Michael O. Miner, National Director for the National Baptist Convention USA, Liaison to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Today's webinar, we are going to be covering and continuing our discussion on maternal health with an emphasis on Black maternal health and infant health crisis. We also have a very special guest this evening, the Reverend Dr. Q English of the Health and Human Services Partnership. Finally, we would like to share the Let's Move National Baptist Sign Up Initiative and provide mental health first aid and training updates to you all. So, without further ado, we cannot go any further without mentioning our phenomenal sponsors, and that is the National Institute of Health All of Us Research Program. And so the All of Us Research Program is on the screen, and essentially we want you to join us, the National Baptist Convention USA, the HOPE team, in becoming 1 in a million in the nation's largest research study. So if you would like to learn more about the All of Us Research Program and the National Baptist Convention USA's team, please feel free to visit the website at www.joinallofus.org/NBCUSA. I'll say that again. That is www.joinallofus.org/NBCUSA. If you didn't catch me say it, it is on the screen for your viewing so that you can jot that down and grab that information so you can learn about all that we are doing. Okay? So this webinar is the 6th of our series of First Tuesday's TempleCare Matters webinars that will evolve into a hybrid series with virtual and in-person gatherings in local congregations, and each session is going to delve deeper and deeper into the 7 pillars of temporal care. And so the 7 pillars of temple care were on the screen as we were getting started, but our local congregations health ministries will be spotlighted throughout the country, and that's right, it's up there. Our local healthcare ministries throughout the country will be spotlighted, and we'll have the opportunity to participate in this initiative. And that's renewing our minds, that's nutrition, exercise, obesity in Black America, health, knowledge, and legacy, safety and preparedness, and health ministry growth. Those are our 7 pillars, and that's what we are basing this series off of. So let's keep it moving. So TempleCare Matters is on by popular demand tonight, and we'll be continuing to focus on maternal health. Last week we were talking about maternal health, but the conversation and the questions were so rich that we had to make certain that we provide you with more information. And again, tonight the emphasis is going to be on the Black maternal and infant health crisis and mental wellness, as well as postpartum depression. So we pride ourselves in not only educating you about what is going on in our community, but also providing you with solutions. Now, later on, our special guest is going to be speaking to suicide prevention because it is Suicide Prevention Month, okay? And so she's going to dive into that topic and give us everything that we need to know, because we know that we have been hearing about suicide now more than ever before. So let's tune in to Dr. English whenever she comes up and begins to talk to us about that very, very important topic. We would also like to thank everyone who shared with us in Houston for the National Baptist Convention USA's annual session. Your NBCUSA HOPE team was thrilled to share with so many of the great healthcare ministries across the country, and we were so thrilled to see all the wonderful work that you were doing in your churches. During the Mid-South Church's HOPE Leadership Luncheon, we were blessed to be able to present the Dr. Gary Levy Leadership Award to Sister Jeanette Jameson. Congratulations to you, Sister Jameson. We would also like to give a special thank you to Dr. Desi Levy and the family for their support of this very, very special award. Thank you so much, Dr. Desi Levy. So now, without further ado, we are going to engage in tonight's discussion, and it is all about maternal and infant health. And we have 2 phenomenal panelists here today. Our first panelist is Miss Nicole Deggins. Miss Nicole Deggins is the leader of the Sister Midwives Production Organization, guys. She is an advanced practice nurse midwife. She is a master level nurse and public health clinician, and she is the leader of the nation's largest doula online doula training organization. So we would like to say thank you, Ms. Deggins, for joining us and being a panelist. We cannot wait to hear from you. Our next panelist, isn't she lovely, guys? Isn't she? Our next panelist is Dr. Tamara Rose. You can call her Dr. Tamara. Dr. Tamara of Sacral Soul is a master level clinical social worker. She is also a birth and fertility doula, and she is going to be sharing with us tonight around mental wellness, okay, the benefits of doulas, and she's also going to be speaking about postpartum depression, okay? Now, she is multi-talented, multifaceted. She's got all the degrees. All the ladies have all the degrees. But tonight, they're just going to give us some nuggets for us, some gems that we can really lean in and learn from these ladies, okay? So maternal and infant health is a huge topic. I'm so glad that we're talking about it more and more. And without further ado, let's jump into this discussion. Miss Deggins, are you here with us? Can you hear us? Can you see us?
Can you hear me? I can see you all. This is so exciting.
Yes, it is so exciting. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your expertise about this topic. So, the Black maternal health crisis. So last month we talked about the maternal health crisis, the maternal and infant health crisis, but there is not only is there a maternal and infant health crisis, but there is a particular emphasis on Black women in this space. And so if you would share, what does the Black maternal and infant health crisis really mean, and what should our communities really know about this?
Right on. That's a really great question. And for me, I know when most people are talking about the Black maternal health crisis, and if some of you were available for the call last month, some of this may be a repeat, but generally they're thinking and talking about the horrific maternal health outcomes that we have across our country. The United States spends the most money for maternal and infant care than any other industrialized country. But in spite of that, we have the highest maternal mortality rates in the world for industrialized countries. Now, I know that there are countries where women are dying more than in the United States, but when we're talking about industrialized countries, developed countries, those different terminologies, the United States is not only the worst, but we also have a rising maternal mortality rate, which means it is getting worse and not getting better. In fact, in 2020, 860 women died and over 60,000 suffered a near-death experience trying to bring forth life. 60% of those deaths are preventable, which means that we as clinicians, as hospital systems, as communities are doing something wrong. 60% are preventable. And then when we talk about Black women and Indigenous women in particularly, we are 3 to 4. And if you go to a city or to a state, it could be 10, 15 times more likely to die. And when we're looking at the statistics for Black women, we also see that preventability. If we look at white women who die, less likely to be preventable. If we look at a Black woman who dies, she wasn't listened to, she wasn't heard, she was ignored. Her family wasn't listened to, they weren't heard, they were ignored. So when I think about the Black maternal and infant health crisis, that's what I think about. And then our babies, right now, we have a lot about our moms, and we're not talking as much about our babies, but still across the United States, 10% of our babies are born too early. And what that means is they're more likely to be born too small, increased likelihood to die before reaching their first birthday. And all of these things, all of these deaths are regardless of socioeconomic and educational status. A lot of times we think we can buy our way out of these things or, do certain. If you're a Black woman in America, you are at 3 to 4 increased risk of dying, and your baby is twice as likely to die before reaching their first birthday. That's the doom and gloom, but we got solutions. I know Sister Ellen is going to bring me to that, but that is the crisis that we're talking about.
So, so often a lot of these disparities are linked to socioeconomics and things of that nature. And so you are saying that that does not apply to the Black maternal and infant health crisis. So is that the reason we were seeing folks like Serena Williams and Beyonce in the news having struggles with birthing?
Yeah, absolutely. And even if we think about the organization Cure for Moms, right? That woman was a well-educated woman, well-connected, the daughter-in-law of a television star, and she died. This was not a woman who was on Medicaid and didn't have good food and she was an active woman with an active husband. They were like all of the things. She had a partner, she ate well, she had money and education, still died, was unheard, not listened to, ignored.
Right. And even if you don't have those things, no partner, no money, no good food,
you ain't supposed to be dying.
You don't deserve to die. Right. Okay. So so you told us what the problem is. You told us what the issue is. What can women do to improve their overall maternal and infant health outcomes? And are there additional supports?
Yeah, so one of the things that I like to talk about, I'll give like 3 different points. One of the things is being educated. And when I say educated, I don't mean now I'm pregnant and now I'm going to decide what kind of birth I want. No, I mean you 24 and you just got engaged. Now is the time before you're even we don't want children for 3 years. Perfect. Now is the perfect time to start really learning and getting connected to all of the different type of birth options. So think about home birth. I know when I say that, a lot of people kind of, oh my God, home birth. I want you all to know that we have only been birthing in hospitals consistently for 100 years max. And if you in the South, we ain't been birthing in hospitals consistently that long. So home birth, not for everybody, is a viable, healthy option for many, many women. Just consider it. Think about all of your options. When you were planning to get married, when you were planning college, when you were planning your career, you thought about these things 5, 10 years before you ever did them. So don't wait until you're almost pregnant to think about pregnant. Learn about all of your options before. And in addition to that, get healthy. Get healthy. If you have chronic diseases, if there's something in your life that needs some attention, whether that is high blood pressure, whether that is weight loss, whether that's diabetes, whether you're smoking, drinking, have addictions, whether you're, we're going to have mental health conversations, whether you're in a mental health situation and you need support, get that stuff fixed as much as you can. Be in your optimal health before you get pregnant, and that will translate into a healthier pregnancy and birth. And then the last thing you asked about support, absolutely. There's 2 ways of support, right? Listen, Dr. Rose is a doula on the call. I train doulas, just finished doing the doula training. Get you a doula. Get you a doula. If you cannot get a doula, don't know a doula, don't know how to find a doula, okay, sure, I can help you find one, but okay, sure. When you go to your doctor's appointments, don't go by yourself. So even if you don't have a trained person who is trained to know how to support you in these spaces, bring your uncle, bring your sister, bring your best friend, your auntie, your boo, somebody with you to the hospital so that when you're there, you feel more comfortable asking the necessary questions. You have someone else who has your back to say, wait a minute, she's not being heard. I don't think you understood your question. Or, you know how it is in a doctor's office, they're talking real fast. You can even really hear them real good. But your other person can take notes for you. They can ask a question on your behalf. They can be part of your support system. So all of those things, get educated, get your body together, and bring somebody with you. Bring somebody with you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for giving it to us in 3. We are Baptist and we love 3 points. So we appreciate you there. Finally, Ms. Deggans, faith-based communities. Okay, we're talking to the people of faith here tonight, right? And beyond. But what can faith-based communities do to improve maternal and infant health outcomes within the body?
So inside of faith-based institutions, I see that there are two different ways and spaces where you can assist, right? So one, inside your congregation, and two, inside of the community, right? So inside of your community, it's as simple to me as sharing the information, sharing it from the pulpit, sharing it in a bulletin, putting it on your bulletin board, finding a meme, finding somewhere where you can post the information to share it with your congregation. Perhaps you create an educational program as a part of your women's ministry or your couples ministry or your health ministry. Perhaps in community, you host a community baby fair, a baby shower. Maybe you're doing free childbirth education classes, a diaper drive. Do you have pregnant women in your congregation right now? Is she being supported? Does she need somebody to go with her to her prenatal appointments? Does she have questions? Does she need support navigating maternity leave? And does somebody in your congregation have that legal understanding and skill? And then one of the things I'll close with is that as Sister Midwife Productions, we've created something called a Healthy Birth Ambassador. So a doula is a non-medical provider who helps families in pregnancy and birth, not a midwife. A doula, non-medical. A Healthy Birth Ambassador, also non-medical. The difference is they are a doula, a childbirth educator, and a certified breastfeeding specialist. And they can help the women in your congregation navigate pregnancy, preconception through the postpartum period. They can host birth stories, sharing circles, and set up meal trains, which are the kind of things that can help support women in the postpartum period. And I know that Dr. Rose is going to come in and really tap in on this maternal mental health situation. But I would really, really beg of you, if you know Sister Janice had a baby and she don't look right and she don't sound right and she's not coming to choir practice anymore. I'm talking 3 months postpartum. She came back to church, but then she left and now she's not answering her phone. Or when you do see her, she don't look good. Reach out to her. See if she is okay. We did just end Maternal Suicide Week, Awareness Week, and it is a leading cause of maternal mortality in communities. And so don't be afraid. We have to go back to the old ways of pulling the coattail when we see something that don't look or sound right.
Thank you so much, Ms. Deggans. You have dropped several gems this evening. Please put your contact information in the chat, and we're going to get some closing words. We're going to circle over to Dr. Tamara, because you talked about it's National Suicide Prevention Month. Dr. English is going to speak to that later on, but you said it was just Maternal Suicide Week last week. And so, Dr. Tamara, we need that licensed clinical social work clinician energy to come on over here and help us now. Okay, help us now. And so, can we talk a little bit more about postpartum depression? We hear that so often, Dr. Tamara, but what does it really mean? What is it?
Well, thank you for having me. Again, I greet everybody in the spirit of love and light. So when we talk about postpartum depression, we're talking about, and people commonly refer to it, right, as the baby blues. And it usually happens shortly, after birth. There's a loss of interest in the baby, maybe a loss of interest in taking care of themselves, just an overall feeling of just, not wanting to eat, just feeling anxiety, uncontrollable crying, sadness, the feelings of not being a good mother, not being able to take care of their baby, not wanting to be left alone with the baby, like this overall, like, I am not going to be successful as a mom, I can't take it, kind of help me energy, right? And it usually happens between 1 in 7 or 1 in 8 women are usually affected. And it's usually because of the hormonal changes in the body that's taking place during birth. And women who tend to have more of a history of mental health in their family are at greater risk for experiencing postpartum depression.
Wow. So, Dr. Tamara, how does postpartum depression typically affect or impact Black women?
It typically shows up in Black women because, again, when we think about how Black women, Black folk in general, are socialized in society, we got to sweep some stuff under the rug. We're not supposed to talk about it. Don't tell what's going on in the family, keep our business, to ourselves. And because of that, oftentimes that's one reason why we don't want to reach out and get the help that we so desire to receive. Another thing is that also I'm a superwoman. I'm supposed to be able to do it all as a Black woman. That's the narrative that we're raised under, the narrative that we're given. I'm a strong Black woman. And anytime I don't show up as a strong Black woman, something is wrong. And God forbid that something is wrong with me. And because of that narrative, I suffer in silence. So now I have this history of sweeping things under the rug. I have to be a superwoman. Meanwhile, I'm dying on the inside. And what am I supposed to do? Because I have this brand new baby. I'm supposed to be experiencing joy, love, and light, but I can't stand this little baby because of my hormones. I feel like a failure. I don't want to be left alone with the baby. What am I supposed to do? I can't call anybody because I got to be a strong Black woman. Right. And that's how it shows up. And so now I'm suffering in silence. And then we have sister such and such not showing up for choir rehearsal, or we have sister such and such showing up for choir rehearsal, right? And smiling and pretending like everything is okay. So we have to kind of be careful when we look for traditional signs or what people think are signs of depression. Depression may show up as me smiling and grinning and laughing and being the life of the party. And I'm dying on the inside, meanwhile ready to commit suicide, but I'm smiling. You see. And so when we talk about depression, we want to make sure that we're just not looking for the person who's crying and sad and falling all over pews in church, or just not kept up and not put together, because we are supposed to have this amazing face that we present to society and to the world and to our congregations. And so sometimes it may show up as that as well. So if you know that there's been someone in your congregation or in your community who has given birth, and they're on one end of the spectrum or the other end of the spectrum or somewhere in between, it's important to check in and be a support and show up.
You are really, really saying all the things that need to be said this evening, Dr. Tamara, especially in particular, depression does not always look like tears. Depression can look like a smile, So thank you so much for sharing that. So, we don't, if someone's sharing that they're feeling a certain kind of way, that we don't, brush their feelings off or make them feel guilty about the way they feel, after having a child. So thank you so much. So postpartum depression, what are some of the causes? We know what it is, we know how it impacts, we know how it can look, but where is this coming from? What are the causes of this?
Again, most research indicates that a woman who has a history of mental health in their family will be more likely to experience postpartum depression. And then the other major cause is really based on the fact of the estrogen and the other hormones that are spiking during pregnancy. And it's a very natural occurrence when we talk about postpartum depression. Now, when we talk about postpartum psychosis, that's a completely different situation. And a person who's more likely to experience postpartum psychosis is a person who's already on the spectrum somewhere when we talk about bipolar disorder. And so that's a completely different thing. And so one thing, we want to make sure that we are naturalizing the fact that it's okay to have these feelings, right, after pregnancy. It's a very natural thing. A lot of women experience these things, but we want to provide those tools, like Sister Midwife said, make sure that they have these tools in place to get the support that they need, but make sure that we're naturalizing the conversation. But when we're talking about somebody who is in a space of psychosis, we want to really lovingly nudge them to really move into a space of therapy and, seeking that support around a therapeutic relationship on an ongoing and consistent basis.
And so that was my final question. At what point should mom seek professional help? And how can partners and family members support mom in seeking professional help in a way that's not shaming, right? But it's supportive and loving.
When we see that our mothers are, we're moving into month 2 and 3, and they can't seem to shake this depression or this depressive state, then we want to start to lovingly nudge them into a space of finding some support. And again, that therapeutic relationship is going to make all the difference in the world, because if a person is not feeling safe to have the conversation, safe to feel heard, safe to feel validated, and safe to be told that this is a very natural experience, especially for first-time new mothers, then we're missing the mark. And so it's going to be so important that we're just monitoring the mothers, having conversations with them, checking in. But like you said, not in a way that's shaming, but in a way that's supportive, helping to educate, women about these things, because a lot of times, especially mothers who are women who are mothers for the first time, they don't understand how the body changes during pregnancy and what can occur. And then even if it's your third or fourth birth, you still may experience a different type of pregnancy each time. And so it's so important to naturalize the conversation, naturalize reaching out for support, naturalize the partners, becoming supportive in that space, and then creating a support system. It takes a community. We got away from that concept, helping the mother to realize you don't have to do it all by yourself. You don't have to be superwoman to this baby, to yourself, to your husband, to the church, to the community, and to everybody else. Let someone take care of you and support you. And this is the time, during the postpartum period, this is the time when we should be rallying around mothers to support them. Again, get a postpartum doula to provide that support. And doulas cannot just provide support during labor and delivery, but they can provide support at home. They can run errands. Like, they can do the things that you need to have done along with your partner and your family support system. And so it's so important to tell mothers and to empower them with a voice to let them know it's okay to need assistance. It's okay to need help. In fact, you will need help, and we're here for that, especially members of our congregations.
Dr. Tamara, thank you so much. Don't leave us, because we've got some questions, and I know that you and Ms. Deggins have the answers, okay? We've learned so much. We've learned about naturalizing the conversation. We learned about the hormonal imbalance. We learned about the seriousness of the Black maternal health crisis. We've learned about so many things that we can implement and that we can really share with somebody else, okay? And so with that conversation, we're going to segue onto our special guest tonight, and that is the Reverend Dr. Q English, okay? But before we jump into Dr. English's presentation and her talk on suicide prevention, we want to make certain that we acknowledge our sponsors one more time, and that is the National Institute of Health All of Us Research Program, okay? And so the All of Us Research Program, you can be one in a million. And again, that website is www.joinallofus.org/NBCUSA. I'll say that one more time, www.joinallofus.org/NBCUSA. Okay, without further ado. Right, save all your questions for Dr. Tamara and Ms. Deggins, okay? They are going to answer them. They're excited to answer. They're ready to answer them. And Dr. English will be ready to answer your questions as well after her piece. But before we jump to Dr. English, I'm going to tell you about Dr. English. So we are so honored to have present our very special guest, Dr. English. She is the director of the Center for Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships at the United States Department of Health and Human Services. She works closely with the White House. The White House's faith-based and neighborhood partnership staff. The Health and Human Services Center's core focus area include addressing COVID-19, maternal health, mental health in youth, suicide prevention, and and overdose prevention. Working with the operating divisions housed within the Health and Human Services, like the CDC and offices like the Administration for Children and Families, Reverend Dr. English and the center seek to address priorities identified by the Biden-Harris administration. As a coalition builder and network strategist, Reverend Dr. Q English joins the Health and Human Services from the state of New York, where she served as the Deputy Director of Faith-Based Initiatives for the Governor's Office and Faith Opportunities, and the Governor's Office and Faith Community Development Services. Here, she identified opportunities to elevate strengths and identify new opportunities to build relationships with faith-based communities. She is the founder and past president of Not on My Watch, an organization formed to combat human trafficking and domestic violence through education, training, and community policy advocacy. Named one of 25 most influential women in the Bronx, Dr. English brings a wealth of knowledge in working with criminal justice systems, substance abuse issues, health and mental health, human trafficking, domestic violence, HIV/AIDS, and civil rights, and more. She received her master's and doctorate degrees from New York Theological Seminary, where she was the recipient of the Excellence in Ministry Award, the highest award given to a graduate doctoral student. Without further ado, Dr. English, she's coming to us to let us all know about how we can prevent suicide. Dr. English.
Thank you, Ellen, and good evening, NBCUSA congregations, and thank you to my fellow panelists for powerful presentation. I want to first give honor to your president in his absence, Dr. Jerry Young, and the National Director of Hope Health Ministry, Dr. Michael Miner, whom I have had the pleasure of working with since my start at the Partnership Center. Again, about the Partnership Center, we have 5 focus areas: maternal health, been working, doing a national tour, creating conversations in houses of worship, increasing doula certification. One church has now 39 doulas certified. Suicide prevention is our second core. Third is youth mental health, substance use disorders, inclusive of overdose prevention, as well as neonatal abstinence syndrome, and ongoing work around COVID-19. Boosters, et cetera. And I must proudly say that the NBC USA has had the longest partnership with HHS, Health and Human Services, than any other federal department or agency. And that's not all. For those that don't know, NBC USA were the recipients of the All of Us research program funded by NIH to help strengthen recruitment of participants and researchers underrepresented in biomedical research. They were one of 7 community partners awarded funding. So we're proud to be partners with the NBC USA. We applaud the great work they continue to do. So September, National Suicide Prevention Month. And I want to start out by showing you this very short video. I grew up with one of the most horrific statements that can be made in anybody's household, and that was, what goes on in the house stays in the house. And for me, and as a Black family, that nearly destroyed us. And it wasn't long after that, my nephew, 14 years old, hung himself. It wasn't long after that when you found my brother pushing a shopping cart in the middle of the street. Yeah, he was that one.
I'm the father of a suicide victim. My daughter was my only child. She was my heart, and she took her life. If there had been a helpline in that hour of crisis, it could have made a difference.
I've personally had to receive mental health and assistance. I've had family members who've received mental health, who've thought about suicide.
The significant number of folks who are attempting suicide, who have suicided, are young people between the ages of 13 and 19.
I have a friend who was very spiritual, loved the Lord, and who took her life. And the biggest problem was at the funeral, all of us knew it, and no one could talk about it.
Growing up in a family of 15, I really do know what it means when individuals would say that what goes on in the home, stay in the home, because that's the way our parents really raised us.
Too many people are experiencing suicidal crisis or mental health related distress without the support and care they need. There is hope. The Lifeline works. It helps thousands of people overcome crisis situations every day. The 988 dialing code is just the first step towards strengthening and transforming crisis care in this country.
It serves as a universal entry point so that no matter where you live, you can reach a trained crisis counselor who can help.
988 offers 24/7 access to trained crisis counselors who can help people experiencing suicidal, substance abuse, and other mental health crises.
To reach the Lifeline, people can call or text 988 or chat 988lifeline.org.
988 is more than just an easy to remember number. It's a direct connection to compassionate, accessible care and support for anyone experiencing mental health related distress.
But we are at a moment in time now where we have to indeed break that cycle and be open to a number of things that are happening in our families, especially in the Black church.
You may be the person that stands between them and that ultimate irreversible decision.
Thank you for calling the Lifeline. How may I help you?
Thank you. So we want you to help us spread the word and help us address the stigma that is so prevalent in our communities. And I'm going to ask them to share another screen right now that contains our QR codes that you can take a picture of with your camera, download the YouTube video and share it widely. Help us make this PSA go viral. So can we share that screen with the QR codes that are present on the PowerPoint? Do we see that yet, or it's coming? We can come back to that. One of the things we just need to know is that our country faces an unprecedented mental health crisis among people of all ages. And even before the pandemic, rates of depression and anxiety were inching higher, but the grief, trauma, and physical isolation of the last 2 years have driven Americans to a breaking point. And our youth have been particularly impacted as losses from COVID and disruptions in routines and relationships have led to increased social isolation, anxiety, and learning loss. An early study has found that students are about 5 months behind in math and 4 months behind in reading compared with students prior to the pandemic. Our Surgeon General in his most recent Youth Mental Health Advisory produced the following data. In 2019, 1 in 3 high school students and half of female students reported persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness, an overall increase of 40% from 2009. And those seriously considering attempting suicide increased by 36%. And those creating a suicide plan increased by 44%. So between 2007 and 2018, suicide rates among youth ages 10 to 24 in the United States increased by 57%. And according to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, also known as NAMI, 1 in 6 U.S. youth aged 6 to 17 experience a mental illness each year. And 50% of all lifetime mental illness begins by age 14 and 75% by age 24. And up to 70% of youth in the juvenile justice system suffer from mental health disorders. And it's important to note that girls are much more likely to be diagnosed with anxiety, depression, or an eating disorder. Boys are more likely to die by suicide or be diagnosed with a behavior disorder, such as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. But in recent years, suicide rates among Black children below the age of 13 have been increasing rapidly, with Black children nearly twice as likely to die by suicide than white children. The suicide death rate among Black youth has been found to be increasing faster than any other racial ethnic group. And children growing up in poverty are 2 to 3 times more likely to develop mental health conditions than peers with higher socioeconomic status. And all that was before COVID-19. And during the pandemic, children and adolescents and young adults have faced unprecedented challenges. First, far too many children and youth have lost a loved one. It's estimated that as of June 2021, more than 140,000 children in the US had lost a parent or grandparent caregiver to COVID-19. And then early estimates from the National Center for Health Statistics suggest there were tragically more than 6,600 deaths by suicide among the 10 to 24 age group in 2020. As a result, in early 2021, emergency department visits in the United States for suspected suicide attempts were 51% higher for adolescent girls and 4% higher for adolescent boys compared to the same time period in early 2019. You also need to know that suicide is the second leading cause of death among young people and was the 10th leading cause of death in the nation in 2019. And in 2019, 1 death by suicide happened almost every 11 minutes in the US. I remember asking myself as a child, why was I ever born? Not what was I born to do or become, but why, as in, why am I even alive? It came from a depressive state the beginning of suicidal ideation. So in response to this, the United States Health and Human Services announced critical investments to implement the 988 dialing code for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. So its current 10-digit number has become a 3-digit dialing code 988, and we have approximately $288 million have been allocated. So it's available nationally for call, text, or chat. The implementation of 988 marks a significant step forward in strengthening access to care for 39 million Americans who experience suicidal, mental health, and substance use challenges each year. Even if they just want to talk, it's confidential. Information will not be shared, and it's available 24/7 to everyone. So standing up the 988 dialing code is a key part of the Biden-Harris administration's focus on ensuring that those in crisis have someone to call, someone to respond, and somewhere to go. We also know that COVID-19 has deeply affected Black and Latino communities. The pandemic's negative impacts, such as illness and death in families and disruptions in school and social life, disproportionately impacted those who were vulnerable to begin with and widened disparities. So we specifically know that certain groups of youth have been uniquely impacted by COVID-19. So racial and ethnic minority youth faced a variety of challenges. So Black youth were more likely than any other youth to lose a parent or caregiver to COVID-19. Youth in rural areas face challenges participating in school and accessing services. We also know that many young people are part of more than one at-risk group, which can put them at even higher risk of mental health challenges. For example, children with intellectual or developmental disabilities who lost a parent to COVID-19, or Black children from low-income families may require additional support to address multiple risk factors. Furthermore, this youth mental health crisis has been accentuated by large social media platforms. And while technology platforms have improved our lives in some ways, there is mounting evidence that social media is harmful to many kids and teens' mental health, well-being, and development. And as the Surgeon General has said, when not deployed responsibly and safely, these tools can pit us against each other, reinforce negative behaviors like bullying and exclusion, and undermine the safe and supportive environments young people need and deserve. So in the State of the Union, the president called on Congress to strengthen privacy protections, ban targeted advertising to children, and demand technology companies stop collecting personal data on our children. So we recently announced $40.22 million in youth mental health grants awarded and $47.6 million in new grants funding opportunity for school-based mental health program. So real quickly, let's go back to the impact of socioeconomic conditions. NAMI also reports that Black adults living below the poverty line are more than twice as likely to report serious psychological distress than those with more financial security. But despite the needs, only 1 in 3 Black adults who need mental health care receive it. And we are very much aware of the barriers to mental care, from socioeconomic disparities to access to trauma-informed care, which has been absent of cultural competency and cultural humility. And that brings me to the topic of stigma. One study showed that 63% of Black people believe that a mental health condition is a sign of personal weakness. And as a result, people may experience shame about having a mental illness and worry that they may be discriminated against due to their condition. And fear also could prevent people from seeking mental health care when they really need it. So growing up, this was my story. As a matter of personal opinion, we as families adhered and still do in many cases to what I consider one of the most dangerous, damaging, destructive, life-altering statement ever to exist. Just this one sentence: what goes on in the house stays in the house. And some things need to come out of the house. One of my best friends, she lived on the 13th floor of my building. I received a call that she had jumped out of the window because there was a fire in her department. And although she and her siblings had escaped the fire. She ran back in to save her father, who suffered from alcoholism. He was abusive. She lived in a domestic violence home. I didn't know that at the time. And so she died. And what became of the siblings? Never received care. I remember one of them reaching out to me several years ago to talk about his ongoing torment. And of course, I pointed him to seek care. He and his sister both suffer from mental health problems and substance use disorder. Some things need to come out of the house. I was flying to New York from Chicago to bury my nephew who hung himself while his younger brother watched. He was 14. At the same time, my sister was in the hospital with pneumonia. She had tested positive for HIV, AIDS. Who knew? We didn't. And this was probably what led my father to a heart attack, and 2 was hospitalized, all happening at the same time. No mental health care, no talk of self-care. Why? Stigma. Instead, silence. Resume normal activities because time will get you through it. It doesn't. And I've had my personal share of horrific events. My journey was not uncommon to some of you on this call today. I remember one such event where I ran up my flight of stairs to tell my mom. She went out to try to find the perpetrator. No success. So she cooked dinner. No 911 was called. We all ate in silence. My mom, my dad, and I. I remember exactly where we were sitting at that small table in NYCHA housing in New York, the projects, Spanish Harlem. I remember standing up, washing the dishes and putting them on the drainer to dry. I went to sleep. I woke up and went to school, never to be discussed again. I was 10 years old. So what do I do with the occurrence? You blame yourself, you process internally, you suffer. In my home, those checked boxes under adverse childhood events, ACEs, contributed to the mental illnesses, drug and alcohol addiction, and the like. However, with proper intervention in seeking mental health care, it could have provided the guidance needed and minimized its impact. When things come out of the house, we can begin to prioritize the mental wellness of our families. And as I reflect on my personal life, for me personally, spirituality, my faith in God was my key to my breakthrough and why I'm here today. So in closing, hashtag be the one to, BETHE, the number 1 TO, is the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifelines message for the National Suicide Prevention Month and beyond, which helps spread the word about actions we can take to prevent suicide. Quickly, 5 steps. 1, ask. Acknowledging and talking about suicide may reduce rather than increase suicidal ideation. 2, be there. Listen without judgment. 3, keep them safe. Make lethal means less available or less deadly. 4, help them stay connected. Help someone at risk create a network of resources and individuals for support and safety. Number 5, follow up. Ongoing contact may be an important part of suicide prevention. So we need you, NBCUSA. We need you to help break the cycle. Let's do our part in being the village once again. And remember, being the village means we don't have a right to put an expiration date on another man's trauma. But what we can do is meet them where they are, whether that's in the dirt or on the sidewalk, wherever they are, and walk with them in whatever stage they are in toward their recovery. And if we could, can we show the QR code document again? God bless you, and thank you for having me tonight.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Dr. English. Yes, the QR code is on the screen. We see it up. We're asking that everyone pause and take a screenshot of this QR code. Save it in your phone, save it in your photos, share it with others. If you are watching this on social media, we ask that you share this broadcast, tag somebody who can benefit from the information that you have heard here from tonight, from Reverend Dr. Q English, from Dr. Tamara, from Dr. Nicole. That was powerful. Again, we just want to make certain that you have the opportunity to take a picture of this QR code that's on the screen so that you can share it with your loved ones, family, and friends, and that you can store it in your photos. Dr. English, did you have any closing remarks before we head on over to Sister Nettie? You are on mute, Dr. English.
Again, I just want to say, thank you for allowing me to be here, but it's very important that we're real proactive in this space because we are that village. We're that village. I believe that the village can once again raise its children. I'm crazy enough to believe that. And it's with knowledge is power. Take what you've heard tonight from everyone that's sharing, and let's be proactive. Let's do something. Let's be like Nike and just do it, right? Take those steps and be a firm listener, because one of the most effective means of communication is in our ability to listen. And we need to do more of that, particularly for our children. Thank you again for having me, and looking forward to our continued work together.
Thank you so much, Dr. English. And speaking of just do it, that brings us to no one other than Sister Nettie Johnson, the National Director for Let's Move National Baptist, the creator of TempleCare. And she is going to be giving us updates about Let's Move National Baptist, where we are with this initiative. And if you are not already engaged, how you can get engaged. Sister Nettie Johnson.
Well, good evening, everybody. And thank you so much. Sister Ellen, you're doing a fantastic job moderating. And this has been such powerful information from Dr. Dennis, Dr. Rose, Dr. English. Truly, life is precious. Life is so precious. And we've learned a lot about how we can preserve and protect it. Just very quickly, we want to give a quick update about Let's Move National Baptist, where we are working to normalize exercise activity in the African American community with our free inclusive program that encourages not just members of National Baptist churches, but people in the communities where we sit and serve to engage in meaningful movement daily, every day, doing something physical, something to get out of the sedentary mode so that we can honor God through care of our earthly temples. And today what we want to do, y'all, is we want to just share a little bit about what a couple of the folks that have been sharing has. I just wanted to highlight a couple of things, and I think there's some slides on the screen really quickly. This is what some of our members are doing. Sister Brenda Berry says she has prioritized activity. She says, I committed to dedicating a portion of my time to enhance my personal, emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being. Bravo to you. Sister Lee Merriweather says she is grateful to wake up every day, right? Life is precious. And she honors that by starting her day every morning with prayer and walk. Sister Carper says, we're fearfully and wonderfully made, and she is so grateful to move. And she said she's inspired by an 85-year-old man that every morning she sees him out taking a walk with his dog. I'm impressed at the 85 and the 530, and Sister Carper, that you are out there doing that. We have a couple more. Sister Maxine Johnson says that she's grateful for mobility, for the activity of her limbs, the sound mind and spirit, and she joined to inform and inspire others around you. God bless you, Sister Maxine. Keep doing that. Sister Cindy White said she asked God to give her strength to endure, to increase her walking, and she has increased from 8,000 steps per day to 10,000 steps per day. Y'all, we talking about doing this thing, making some changes. And just two more. Sister Maxine Johnson said, for the Lord is your strength. He's with you wherever she goes. She says, I'm grateful for my activity. Being active has helped me to get off my blood pressure medicine. Y'all, praise God. We're talking about taking the information and the knowledge that is being shared and putting this thing in place. Somebody clap on that, getting off some medication, y'all, making some changes, prioritizing our self-care. And y'all, all of these things, God is so awesome that every single aspect of what we talked about today, they all tie in and support one another. Sister Douglas told us that before you get pregnant, be in the best physical shape that you can possibly be. Make sure that your health is well. We know that exercise can help to some degree with things like depression and helping with our mental position and how we feel. So all of these things do work together. So we just are excited to see the changes that people are making, and we are encouraging you, if you have not yet joined us in Let's Move National Baptist, to come on and join us. Come on and join us. Really quickly, every month, we are blessed to encourage and to celebrate and to honor folks that are just doing this thing with a giveaway. And we want to announce that the $100 gift card is going to one of the members that did share in their activity. You have two requirements. Every time that you put up on the sharing form for each day that you moved meaningfully, we're just talking about having intention, doing something for your body. You report that for us, Each time that gets you one entry, and then you have to be on the webinar. So out of the tons of responses that we got, today's winner is Lee Merriweather. Lee Merriweather. She is on the webinar today, and you will be getting a $100 gift card. And so if you have not been reporting your activity and how you're moving and your change, y'all, please do so. We want to celebrate God and celebrate you together. We want to encourage and celebrate together and spread that example. So you can please do so by going to the form. The actual web address will pop up in the chat. Just let us know how you're moving. And we also do have office hours. So if you're having any challenges, if you have barriers that you need to work through, join us on one of those office hours. All of the information, y'all, can be found up at Let's Move National Baptist, letsmovenbc.com. When you join there, we're going to shoot everything into your email. You get an email about once a week with some helpful information. And lastly, coming up, we're going to talk a little bit more about walking for health as the temperatures get to be a little bit more temperate to support that. We're also going to be sharing this month about family fitness, because September is National Childhood Obesity Awareness Month. It's sponsored by the CDC's Division of Nutrition, Physical Activity, and Obesity to provide an opportunity to learn more about this major public health problem. So we're going to talk about how we can engage in family fitness, because we're talking about not only changing and improving our health for our lives, but we're talking about changing the health legacy for our people. So thank you all for those that are participating. Congratulations, Lee Merriweather, your gift card is on the way, and y'all keep on moving. Keep on moving. We look forward to doing it together. Thank you so much.
All right now, Sister Nettie Johnson, that's our very own Sister Nettie Johnson. She's the Director of Fitness, our Robert Woods Johnson winner, the creator of TempleCare, all things fabulous. Listen, stick with the National Baptist Convention Hope Ministry, and you too can be a winner. Let's continue to move National Baptist. And finally, we are going to hear from our very own Sister Bettina Campbell with our mental health first aid training update. Sister Campbell, are you with us? Hi, Sister Campbell. You are on mute. There you are.
Yes. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm sorry, but we, Dr. Miner and I are trying to work out the schedule. So it will probably be at the next session that we will be able to share with you when we will be doing some trainings.
All right then. Well, thank you so much, Sister Campbell. Listen, we have heard so much wonderful information this evening. We want to give you an opportunity to ask some questions, okay? And so if you have any questions for any of our panelists, please drop them in the chat. If there are any questions on social media, we have some folks monitoring social media. We will check over there. While we are waiting on questions, you can also ask your questions in the Q&A section within Zoom. So if you are in Zoom, you can ask your questions in the chat or in the Q&A function. And if you're watching on social media, you can drop your questions in the comment section, and we will try to get them answered before our webinar is over. But again, we want to thank our sponsors, National Institute of Health, the All of Us Research Program, for being a major sponsor of this event. This evening's webinar. We also don't want you all to forget that we have some September updates. The National Childhood Obesity Awareness Month, Sickle Cell Disease Awareness Month, National HIV and AIDS and Aging Awareness Day is September 18th. And again, September is National Suicide Prevention Month, as Dr. English has shared with us earlier. So we don't want to forget those health observances. If you have not done so already, make certain that you connect with the National Baptist Convention and also the National Baptist Convention USA's Hope page, that we have our own website. There is social media, there is Twitter, there is Facebook, there is LinkedIn, there's also a YouTube channel, so you can connect with us in so many different ways, and we invite you to do just that. We would also appreciate your feedback. So there is a survey going forth. I'm saying that again. It's a survey going forth in the chat. And we want you to share your thoughts on tonight's experience. We want to hear what you learned. How has it impacted you? And so if you would please take some time to copy and paste that link and participate in the survey. If you have time to do the survey right here, right now, there's no time like the present. So please make certain that you fill out the survey. And now I am checking the chat for questions. Okay. And please, if you are in the chat, Dr. English is still on the line, Ms. Deggins is still on the line, and Dr. Tamara is still on the line. They have graciously left their contact information in the chat. Listen, I would that you would copy and paste. Amen. So that you can have their contact information after this webinar is over. Okay, yes. The link is in the chat, and oh yes, that's right. We will give you an honorary doctorate. You will get an honorary doctorate at the Baptist Church, but Dr. English and Dr. Tamara have real doctorates. But we'll do that here, Ms. Nicole. Okay, let's see. I'm not seeing any questions right now. Listen, guys, this has been a wonderful experience. We want to say thank you. We want to say thank you to our fearless leader, Dr. Michael O. Minor, Dr. Debbie Levy, Sister Lottie Minor, Sister Bettina Campbell, Pastor Dexter Mulroney. These are members of our HOPE team, guys, our national HOPE team. Dr. Felicia Washington, Minister Geraldine Moore, Dr. Labora Williams, Sister Loretta Miller, Sister Nettie Johnson, Dr. Marion Talley, and Thomas Duke Robertson for making this all possible. Also, our regional coordinators. We have National Baptist ambassadors, HOPE ambassadors across the state and the country. And we want to say thank you to our national coordinators, Pastor Daniel Blackburn, the Northeast region, Brooklyn Rogers, Southeast, Pastor Bernard Montgomery, Southwest 1, Sister Linda Carper, Southwest 2, Teresa Falls, Midwest, Norma P. Jackson, the West region, and Pastor Richmond Johnson, the Far West region. We know that some of you have additional questions or comments, so we are going to formally close out today's webinar on our social media platforms. And for those of you inside the webinar, inside Zoom, we ask that you hang back momentarily for your comments and thoughts, and you'll be able to directly speak with Dr. English and Ms. Deggins and Dr. Tamara. Once again, that's why you always want to fill out, that's why you always want to register. Social media is good, but you want to get in the house. Don't forsake the assembly. Hello, somebody. Okay, once again, we want to acknowledge our president, Dr. Jerry Young, who reminds us to envision the future exceptionally. This has been a production of the National Baptist Convention USA, the nation's largest Black denomination. God bless and keep you is our prayer. Bye, guys. I'm Ellen McKnight, your moderator.